Dini Tadanaroni, the town Naya, Joseph Nani, Yamatagri, town Domia, she said, Domini, Green. Don't say yet, Senela, the town has said it. Chadarini, can go down to Gumudi, down by Muni, Matia, the shwewarwin Joe, Mogovatana, Majita, be seeing Jemba Kilokati, place at the Mupa, England Yama, in Tiaro. Tayar Raja Kondo, Sarotangaro, Sindhuyadini, Yogi Pong, Rokondo A, Chauta, India, Pitwam Hapsipari, in Emisagi, Dia Baishin, Chido, Roga Tota, Tabi Yasa Kashi, Romiatia, Namoda, Dom Yusui, Yashiku, Uso, Roja Bakunsu. Namo Tata Bhagavato Arahato Dhamma
Namo Tata Namo Tata
Bhagavato
Arahato Dhamma Tata Namo Tata
Today, what I'm going to talk about is dependent origination. Dependent origination, the 6 sets of the 6. Chachaka Soda, I have already posted. Sasaka Toden, Chachaka Soda. The 6 sets of the 6. 6 sets of the 6. Chachaka Soda. According to the Chachaka Soda, the 6 sets of the 6. Mogusero's methods, dependent origination is based on the sodas. Ubri Panasa, Palikano, Pali literature, Palikano. According to the Ubri Panasa, Palikano, there was a Saka soda. Dependent origination is based on the soda. If you understand dependent origination, you understand Sasaka soda. Sasaka soda. According to the Sasaka soda, when you practice meditation according to these sodas, you can attain realization on Nibbana. You can attain realization on Nibbana. This is a very important soda. Among the Buddha's teaching, there are many soda. They are important. This soda is one of the most important sodas. So this is very important. According to these sodas, depending on iron and forms, there arises iron consciousness. Depending on the iron and forms, there arises iron consciousness. Depending on the iron and forms, there arises iron consciousness. Depending on the iron and form, there arises iron consciousness. The median of 3 is contact. The median of 3 then is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises breathing. This is one set. This is one set according to Saseka Sota. Chacheka Sota. According to this Sota, this is one sex. Depending on the eye and form, there arises eye consciousness. The median of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. This is one sense. In another way, depending on the ear and sounds, there arises ear consciousness. The median of three is called, the median of three is contact. Combination of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. That is one set also. This is also one set. Depending on the ear and sound, there arises ear consciousness. The median of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. This is one set. And again, depending on the nose and smell or odors, there arises nose consciousness. The median of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. This is also one set. Depending on the tongue and taste, flavor, there arises tongue consciousness. The median of three is contact. The median of three then is contact. Combination of these three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. This is also one set. Depending on body and tangible things. Depending on the body and tangible things, there arises body consciousness. The median of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. This is one set. Depending on mind and mind objects, there arises mind consciousness. The median of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. According to dependent origination, depending on craving, there arises clinging, becoming, birth, old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. According to dependent origination, according to the diagram of dependent origination, dependent origination is revolving in this way, cycling in this way. We have to understand. This is 6 sets. Each set including 6 kinds. Altogether, 6 sets of the 6. 6 sets of the 6. One said 6 kinds. One said 6 kinds. Altogether 6 sets. တစ်စုံတစ်စုံမှာ6မျိုးဖြစ်တယ်တစ်စုံတစ်စုံမှာ6မျိုးဖြစ်တယ်6မျိုး6မျိုး6စုံဖြစ်ပါ6မျိုး6မျိုး6စုံ6 6 36ဆဆက်ကတုတ်တယ်ဆဆက်ကတုတ်တယ်အရာဆိုရင်6 6 36ဖြစ်ပါမျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာမြင်စိတ်ပေါ်တယ် depending on the eye and form there arises eye consciousness. Depending on eye and form, yes, in a karma, there arises eye consciousness. Depending on eye and form, there arises eye consciousness. Yes, depending on the eye and forms. Yes, there arises eye consciousness. Eye consciousness. Depending on the eye and forms. The eyes and forms. In a kuboma, udi biro, in kuboma, mi biroma, there arises eye consciousness. Yense boyare. Yense boy. Yense boraha, alulu bora hobu. Yesine, a single mi biroma boyare. Yesine, sin daiti, rejangani boyare. Najam, depending on the eye and forms, there arises eye consciousness. Yes, in a Senate Kama, in say for a Doma Bong so no Ada, Doma Bong so nana adapted. The median of breathing is contact. The median of three is contact. The median of breathing is contact. Combination of breathing is contact. As you like, you can translate as you please, as you understand. When you study dependent origination, there are many translations, many scholars, many translations, different scholars, different translation. You can choose as you please. The median of breathing is called contact. The median of breathing is contact. Doma bong sono hada. Hada bisya virana. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Hada bisya virana. Hada jao virana chite. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Hada jao virana chite. Virana jao tana chite. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. Virana jao tana chite. Tana jao upadan dhamma bhava sati saramarana doga pridiva dukha dognada upayata. Clinging, becoming, birth, old age and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Parisa Dhamoba Zawgyi Unicode. Parisa Dhamoba Tandara level Nichibade. Yes, in a Senate Dide Kama Music Bore, a music Bore Kama, Tayar alone between and Sui, Doma Bonsono, Padari Lame, Urinari Lame, Tena Ubarankan, Sadi Saramarana, Toga Pridiwa, Doka Domana, Upayata, Sopio. The mess of suffering, the entire mess of suffering, the whole mess of suffering. The whole mess of suffering is revolving again and again. We cannot be liberated from this samsara, from this existence. be liberated from this existence. We are revolving in this existence, suffering again and again. Why we are revolving in this existence? Because we cannot practice meditation according to the Mogosaro's method, according to the Buddha's teaching. We cannot practice meditation according to the Mogosaro's method, based on Buddha's teaching. According to the Buddha's teaching, we cannot practice meditation. Without practicing meditation, we cannot go outside of this existence. Be liberated from this existence. To be liberated from this existence, we have to practice meditation according to dependent origination. To liberate from this samsara, we have to learn dependent origination. On this dependent origination is cycling, on this is stopping, on this is cycling, how to cycle and how to stop. We have to understand according to dependent origination. That is very important. Without understanding how to stop, how to cycle, how to revolve this diagram, this doctrine, it is impossible to liberate from this samsara. To be free from all of suffering, we have to learn dependent origination. We have to learn dependent origination. When you learn dependent origination, you may know how they are linking each other, how this process is going on, how this process can be stopped. How to stop this diagram, how to stop this dependent origination. We understand very clearly. Without understanding how they are revolving, how they are stopping, we cannot be liberated from this samsara, from this existence. To liberate from this samsara, to be free from all of suffering, we have to learn dependent origination. According to the Mogusaro's method, based on the Buddha's teaching, we have to learn. If you learn how to stop this diagram, how they are cycling one by one, how they are stopping each by each, in this case, you can be free from all of suffering by practicing meditation based on dependent origination. Based on dependent origination. This process is going on without practicing meditation. Depending on the I and the form, there arises I consciousness. When I consciousness is arising and you have to practice meditation, I consciousness, I consciousness, I consciousness. You have to practice meditation. When you practice meditation, this I consciousness is arising, passing away, arising and passing away, arising and passing away. This I consciousness, you have to observe that I consciousness. This is arising and disappearing, arising and disappearing. When you see arising and disappearing is impermanence. That is a suffering. That is no soul, you may understand automatically. Without practicing meditation, you may not understand. This is impermanence. This is a suffering. This is no soul. This is impermanence. anicca, this is suffering, dukkha, this is also anatta. You may understand. I'm practicing meditation. Without practicing meditation, you may not understand these three characteristics of mind and matter. When you understand three characteristics of mind and matter, you practice meditation again and again. You practice meditation more and more. The more you practice meditation, the more you understand very clearly, very obviously. When you practice meditation more and more, you may see the arising and disappearing very obviously. When you see arising and disappearing is the noble truth of suffering. Understanding knowledge is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Removing is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. Attaining is the cessation of suffering. You attain the realization of Nibbana in this very life because you practice meditation. Without practicing meditation, you are not able to attain realization of Nibbana. To attain realization of Nibbana, you have to practice meditation. How you practice meditation? Depending on I and form, there arises I consciousness. I consciousness is arising in you. You have to observe I consciousness, I consciousness, I consciousness. At the time you may see arising and disappearing. When you see arising and disappearing, you have to observe this is the noble truth of suffering. Arising and disappearing is the noble truth of suffering. The noble truth of suffering. Understanding knowledge, observing knowledge is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. You understand suffering as suffering. At the time you don't crave for that suffering. In this case, you are removing the cause of suffering. Removing is the cause of suffering. When you remove the cause of suffering, you will have a no suffering again. When you have a no suffering again, you attain the cessation of suffering. You attain the cessation of suffering, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. It is called nirvana, nirodha satya, cessation of suffering. When you attain the noble truth of cessation of suffering, because you practice meditation, I consciousness. I consciousness. Ear consciousness is also the same way. Depending on ear and sound, there arises ear consciousness. The medium of three is contact. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Depending on feeling, there arises craving, clinging, becoming, birth, old age and death, sorrow, limitation, pain, grief, and despair. Despair. The process of dependent origination is going on continuously because we cannot practice meditation. So we have to practice meditation. How to practice meditation according to dependent origination? When you have ear consciousness, you have to observe that ear consciousness. Ear consciousness, ear consciousness, ear consciousness, you have to observe it. When you observe that ear consciousness is arising and disappearing, rising and disappearing. When you see arising and disappearing, Oh, this is the noble truth of suffering. Here consciousness is the noble truth of suffering. Understanding knowledge is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Removing is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. Attaining is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. The noble truth of the cessation of suffering. You attain the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Why do you attain the realization of Nibbana, the cessation of suffering? Because you practice meditation, ear consciousness. Ear consciousness. When you practice meditation on ear consciousness, you may attain realization of Nibbana in this very life. Without practicing meditation, you cannot attain realization of Nibbana in this very life. To attain realization of Nibbana, whenever ear consciousness is arising in you, you have to observe it. Whenever ear consciousness is arising in you, you have to observe it. Likewise, nose consciousness, you have to observe nose consciousness. When you have nose consciousness, you have to observe nose consciousness, the same as ear consciousness. You have to observe. When you observe that nose consciousness is arising in the spirit. Arising in the spirit is the noble truth of suffering. Understanding knowledge is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Removing is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. Attaining is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. You attain the noble truth of the cessation of suffering by practicing nose consciousness. When you have tongue consciousness, you have to observe it. Tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mind consciousness, thinking consciousness, whatever consciousness is arising in you, you have to observe. You have to practice meditation. When you practice meditation, you can attain realization of Nibbana by practicing meditation. Without practicing meditation, it is impossible to attain realization of Nibbana, to attain real peace. To attain real peace, we have to practice meditation. Whatever consciousness is arising in us, we have to practice meditation. In that case, this dependent origination stops when you practice meditation. Without practicing meditation, this dependent origination is cycling and cycling, revolving and revolving continuously. So we need to practice meditation. This is according to dependent origination, how to practice meditation. Depending on eye and form, there arises eye consciousness. Yes, in a Senate Kama, Yansi Pora. Doma Bonsono Pata. The meaning of three is contact. Doma Bonsono Pata. Pata Bisia Virena Pata Jong Virena Chit. Depending on contact, there arises feeling. Virena Jong Tanap Chit. Depending on feeling, there arises craving. Tana Jong Uparam Chit. Depending on craving, there arises clinging. Upadanyam Kamabwa Chit. Depending on clinging, there arises becoming. Kamabwa Jong Sadi Chit. Depending on becoming, there arises birth. Sadi Jong Saramrana Chit. Depending on birth, there arise old age and death, sorrow, Loka. Lamentation, Pritiwa. Pain, Dukkha. Grief, Dominata. Despair, Ubayada. Ubayadari, Sindai Chapari. Dukkha Tandarani. Risa the Mopat Tandarai, Lepade, Kovare. Erilu, Lepade Kama. Yasine, Sene, Tide, Che, Yinze Bore Kama, Yinze Lumabi. Erilu Mabi, Yinze Malaidane, Yinze Gilip, Shibiro, Yasire the Bo, or Biro Pyodware the Bo, Shibiro, Yasire the Bo, or Biro Pyodware the Bo, the body Ali, Yanali. Erilu, Yelavi Sui, Yenzegli, Chibiro Pianirave, or Biro Pianirave, Yenzegli, who did each other, Yenelu like the Segli, Yenelu like the Segli, Isegli with each other, Yenzegli of Chibiran, yet Obiran and Piap. Erilu Chibiran, yet Obiran and Piosura, Mamielu, Mamiraligu, Nasalo Kore, and permanence. Eri Mamire, the Watia in Manamia. Yes, either the what she do, Dokha the Kore, suffering. Any Dokha in a join, who are Majonia Mabu, Solubia, who you did in the Lubia, who young legend of young Lumia, Avilumia, Kuma Bino. Any Lukuma Bine, the what they are go, another the Kore, no so. Mamiano Kore and Asa suffering. Senior Kore. Mamiano Kore and Asa impermanence. Senior Kore Dokha suffering. Asumia, Kumabain, Ubugin, Miagino Kore Anada, no so. Mamiano Kore and Asa impermanence. Senior Kore Dokha suffering. Asumia, Kumabain, Ubugin, Miare Anada, no so. Anasa impermanence, Dokha suffering, Anatta no so. Eri Lekana Idomabu. Tini Shasha Mia on Chuza Biro Shuma, Chuza Biro Shuma Lili, Mamiere, Anasa Lekana, Sire, Dokha Lekana, Sumia, Kumabai, Gubu, Miare, Anata Lekanari, Lili. Biro Malili, Tenisha, Bobiro, Yili, Erilu, Yuza Maya Rani, Chibiro, Yasir, Wadiari, Obu Biro, Tenisha, Shin Lilin, Tapiatara, Minalibe, Erilu, Nilavi Sui, all Chibiro, Yasini Jarabe, Chibiro, Yasini Jarabe, arising and disappearing, Chibiro, Yanirabe, arising and disappearing, only a chin of Jeppe. Horizon in despair and only absent and object. Chipiro Genirame, horizon in despair and only absent and object. There is no man, no women, no beings, no living beings. And a whole Sura that was from the widow, who Naduba Yami Masura living the widow, Shin Jeppe between it. So, Chibi Daga, Doka, this the noble truth of suffering. Mega is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. The Muria is the noble truth of the cause of suffering. Now Kana Malaraga Nirora is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. So Biro, Yenzekli would be alone like that. Nirora this Yamokudare, Yenzekli would be alone. Jazigli would be my level, Nirora this Yamo Buane, Nanzegli would my ele, Nirora this Yamo Buane, Sase, Yana Gomse, Wisi, Pese, Mama, Any city with my ene, Niban Yaw 190, Niban Yaw Yendoma, Say Chanda Jin, Uchanda Jin, in a piece only Mayama Shabari, Erilu. Makuya, 2 years, Lebabo Maligaro, Yasine, Senate, Kama, Yazi Pore, Roma Bonsono Pata, Adaja, Wirina, Tana, Ubaran, Kem, Pawa, Sani Zaramarena, Tayar Mayin, Idan Leroma. Music Malay de Kajaro, music Mayin and Nipan Yok Ware Kajaro. Prisadum Patandra Malero, Prisadum Patandra Piatwa. Means music with Tayar Mayin, Prisadum Patandra Piate. Music with Tayar Mayin, Prisadum Patandra Pate. Jazik with Tayar Mayin, Tandra Piate. Jazik with Tayar Mayin, Tandra Pate. Nancy with Tayar Mayin, Pate. Nancy with Tayar Mayin, Piate. Sazi go Mayin, Tandra Lepa Mave. Mama Piama. Yana Gonzi du Mayin, Piate, Mamayin, Mapiabu. Wizi du Mamayin, Mapiabu, Tandra Mapiabu. Wizi du Mama Tandra Piane. Naprisa the Moba, Tandra Lepa Bogli, Chide, a Lepa Bogli, Tayar Mapote. Isu to beat up Chapare. Heraligo, K. Sarori, Nili Luri, and Mammy Dolly, and Baba Sarori Lobo. I was on she body. K. Presa the Moba, kissing lady. Presa the Moba, Lepa Bogli. Sasaka, though Daniel Alu, Presa the Moba, Tayar or Alu. Neneli, the Jam Mammy, Janaria, Gono, Mammy Dobari. Sasaka, though they lose Lucy, and the young Yain, Chow Jong Yabon, Chow Jong Yabon of Chapari. Ceremonia inly Ludi, Mammy the Lord in Baba, Yobiabo. Unale the Lubo, the Lube, Nale, La Palope, Nale, Yava, your easy Yodia.
Hello, teacher.
Yes.
So now I will retro our teachers as much as I understand.
Yes.
So today our teachers preach Padesha Tamuba Sasaka Sota. So now I notice I write down in my notebooks. I found arise unconsciousness. So ear and sound, ear consciousness, no smell, no consciousness, tongue and taste, eye consciousness, body and temperature, body consciousness. So once 6 kinds of altogether is 38.
Yes.
So if someone want to be peaceful mind and successful life, so we we should practice samatha and vipassana meditation.
Yes.
So according to Sassaka Doda, so when we practice so samatha and vipassana meditation, I'm seeing something. So we should practice seeing, just seeing.
Yes.
We should not follow seeing. So ear arises a sound. So when we practice ear consciousness, so our environment is very noisy. That's why we should not follow the sound. So ear is just ear. So we should not follow the sound.
Yes.
So sometimes we can find difficult problem from environment. So environment is very noisy. That's why we should find a silent area.
Yes, silent area.
Silent area. Yeah. So we should practice samatha and vipassana meditation for 30 minutes in a day, or as much as we can. So at least we should practice 1 hour in a day. So
Yes.
also we will be peaceful mind more than before. So there are the 2 kinds of mind after finish samatha vipassana breath meditation.
Yes.
So after finish samatha meditation or vipassana meditation, our mind is clean, and so whatever our desire, whatever our decision is right. So we will the faithful mind and successful life and successful business.
Yes.
So that's all, teacher.
In your presentation, in your talk, samatha meditation and vipassana meditation. I like to discuss
teacher.
with samatha meditation, concentration. Samatha, concentration, meditation, vipassana, insight meditation.
Insight meditation.
When you practice samatha meditation, the sound is disturbing you, disturbing meditators. When you practice samatha meditation, sound is disturbing meditators. Because of sound, because of noisy, you cannot practice meditation. You cannot concentrate. You cannot attain real peace. But when you practice insight meditation, and when you have sound, when you have ear consciousness is arising, ear consciousness is arising. When you practice ear consciousness or sound, you can see impermanence, suffering, or also you can see arising and disappearing. You can attain realization of Nibbana by practicing ear consciousness or sound. Because of insight meditation, sound is good friend. When you practice insight meditation, sound is real good friend. Because of practicing meditation on sound or ear consciousness, you can attain realization of Nibbana. That's why when you practice samatha meditation, sound is enemy. Sound is disturbing you. Noisy is disturbing you. But when you practice insight meditation, that sound is helping you. That is good friend. Because of practicing meditation on sound or ear consciousness, you can attain realization of Nibbana. So that is the difference between samatha meditation and vipassana meditation. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I understand, teacher.
Yes. That is very interesting. That is very interesting. When you practice samatha meditation, sound is disturbing you, noisy is disturbing you. But when you practice insight meditation, when you hear some song, you are observing ear consciousness. At the time, you can attain a realization of Nibbana by practicing meditation on that consciousness. You can attain real peace. That is very interesting. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. It's a really good presentation. Okay, someone? Is there anyone who wants to explain, who wants to talk, who wants to present? Okay, dialogue your wow. Let's hear about your thought. Nene kuma mitra li, dire segelong ni kuma mitra li, toli ya. Wizara ini nene dia bawa. Lagi ni ya tahu nene.
Good evening, teacher, and in our classmate.
Yes. Okay.
I want to talk about the 6 intermediate and the 6 intermediates. and yes, and the 6 class of consciousness and the 6 class of the context.
Contact, yes.
Class of context. And then may I talk about the 6 class of the context?
Contact.
Yes. And the 6 class of the 6 class of context should be known. Our teacher told us.
Yes.
Dependent on the eye and form.
Forms, yes.
Yes. There arise consciousness at the eyes.
Yes. Consciousness.
The meeting of the three is the
Contact.
the 3 is contest.
Yes.
The 3 is contest. Depend on the ear and sound. There arise consciousness at the ear.
The ears, yes.
Yes. The meeting of the 3 is contest. Dependent on the nose and the nose and smell.
Smell, yes.
Smell. No and smell. There arise consciousness at consciousness at the nose.
At the nose.
The meeting of the 3 is contest, dependent on the tongue and taste.
Taste.
The tongue and taste. Yes. And there arise consciousness at the tongue. The meeting of the 3 is contest, dependent on the body and
Tangible.
body and physical.
Physical, yes. Okay.
Yes. And there arise consciousness at the body.
At the body, yes.
The meeting of the 3 is contest, dependent on the intellect and idea. Idea. There arise consciousness at the intelligence or intellect. The meeting of the 3 is contest.
Okay.
The 6 of the contest should be known.
Should be known.
Yes, that's all.
Yeah, this is 6 contact. 6 contact. How to become 6 contact? According to Chaka Soda or according to dependent origination. How to become 6 contact? You understand very obviously. And when you understand obviously, you practice meditation according to this understanding. In this case, you can attain real peace. You can attain realization of Nibbana. You can attain real peace. That's why you have to understand 6 contact. How to become 6 contact, you have to understand very clearly. When you understand clearly, you practice meditation. Very easily, you can practice meditation. When you practice meditation, very easily, you can attain real peace. You can attain realization of Nibbana. Yeah, that is very important. This is a fundamental of practice and meditation. These are fundamental of practice and meditation. Essence of meditation. Essence of meditation. This is very important point. When you practice meditation, you have to know this dependent origination. Basically, fundamentally, you have to know. Without knowing this process, it's difficult to practice meditation. Now, who is allowed? I don't know the money yes, not a jaro, Macayan or using the other Choma, other Chow Yu, Chibola, only who's in the bodies or Janet Hajaro, Yaba, Janet Hadway body, other Ti on Yabo, other Chow Yu, Yaba. That's way. A chicken Lego, ထမဦးဆုံးအခြေခံလေးကိုကုလို့သိဖို့ကရေးကြည့်ပါအခြေခံလေးကိုသိသွားပြီအခြေခံလေးကိုနားလည်သဘောပေါက်သွားပြီဆိုရင်ရှေ့ဆက်ရတာအားရှိသွားပြီရှေ့ဆက်ရတာပို့ပြီးတော့နယ်လွယ်ကူသွားပြီရေးကြည့်တာကဦးဇင်းတို့လေ့လာတဲ့အခါမှာဦးဇင်းတို့လေ့လာထားတာလေးကိုကိုယ်စိတ်ထဲကနေပြီးတော့ဖတ်ထားတယ်မှတ်ထားတယ်အဲ့ဒါလေးတွေကိုကိုယ်ပါဇက်ထဲကနေပြန်ထုတ်ပြီးတော့ပြောဆိုမှုသွားရင်တော်တော်တန်တဲ့မမေ့ဘူးပါဇက်ထဲကနေထွက်လာတဲ့အဆင့်မရောက်ရင်မေ့သွားနိုင်ဘူးဇက်ထဲကနေပြန်ထုတ်ပြီးတော့ကိုယ်ရင်ထဲကနေထွက်လာတဲ့အဆင့်ရောက်သွားရင်ဒီပုံစံလေးတွေကတိတ်ပြီးတော့မမေ့တော့ဘူးဟောင်းနေကောင်းတယ်ဦးဇင်းအဲ့လိုလေးနည်းနည်းလေးထုတ်ပြောတော့အဆက်လည်းပဲလေ့ကျင့်ရတော့ဆက်လည်းပဲလေ့ကျင့်ရတော့သူများဘာသာစကားနဲ့ဒီလိုကလေ့လာရတာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်သူများဘာသာစကားနဲ့ပြောရတာဖြစ်တဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်အတန်ထွက်ပြီးတော့လေ့ကျင့်နိုင်ရင်တော့ပိုကောင်းပါအတန်ထွက်ပြီးတော့လေ့ကျင့်နိုင်ရင်အတန်ထွက်လေ့ကျင့်မှရသွားတယ်ဘုံတော့လေ့ကျင့်ကလည်းပါသွားတာပေါ့အကုန်လုံးပါသွားတာပေါ့ရေးပြီးတော့လေ့ကျင့်ရင်ရေးတဲ့နေရာကျွမ်းကျင်မယ်ပြောပြီးတော့လေ့ကျင့်ရင်ပြောတဲ့နေရာမှာကျွမ်းကျင်သွားမယ်အဲ့တော့အကုန်လုံးကျွမ်းကျင်ရင်တော့အကုန်လုံးလေ့ကျင့်ရတယ်ကိုယ်ဘာသာစကားမဟုတ်တဲ့ခါကျတော့မလေ့ကျင့်ရင်တော့အကုန်လုံးခက်တယ်လေ့ကျင့်ရင်တော့မခက်ပါဘူးအဲ့တော့အခုဒီမှာဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပြောလို့ဒီဆဆက်ကတုတ်တန်ရဲ့အတိုင်းဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ပြောလို့ကဒီလေပတ်ပုံလေးကိုသိဖို့ရအတွက်ဆိုရင်ဒါပရိစ္ဆေသမုပ္ပါအင်္ဂါ12ပါးရဲ့စကလုံးလေးကိုပြောလို့12ပါးရဲ့စကလုံး12လုံးကိုတော့အခြေခံနားလည်ရအဲ့ဒီ12လုံးရဲ့အခြေခံလေးကိုနားလည်ရင်ကျန်တာကတော့နည်းနည်းချင်းစားထုတ်ပြီးတော့ပြောသွားလို့ရနိုင်ပါတယ်အင်္ဂါ12ပါးရဲ့စကလုံး12လုံးကိုတော့အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုလေးနားလည်ထားရင်တော့တော်တော်လေးအဆင်ပြေအဲ့ဒီစကလုံး12လုံးရဲ့အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုလေးနားမလည်သေးရင်တော့နည်းနည်းလေးခက်ခဲဖြစ်နေဦးမှာပေါ့နော်နောက်ပိုင်းကျရင်တော့လွယ်ကူတော့မှာကဲဒီကောင်မကြီးတွေပြောကြအောင်လားသူပြောမယ်ကဲမမြင့်စုပြောမှာဒါတော့သူပြောမယ်ကဲသူပြောမလဲပြောအောင်လား
ပြောတဲ့သူရှိပြောမှာပါဗျာ
ကဲသူပြောကြအောင်မယ်
မျက်စိနဲ့ပြောမှာဗျာပြောတဲ့ယောဂီမရှိပြောမှာပါဗျာ
အေးပြောဟုတ်ပြီ
မျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါကျတော့မြင်စိတ်ပေါ်လာတယ်ဗျာမြင်စိတ်ပေါ်လာဗျာအဲ့မြင်စိတ်ပေါ်တာ၃ပါးစုံတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပစ္စယတဏှာပါဗျာနာနဲ့အတန်နဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါကျတော့ကြားစိတ်ပေါ်လာတယ်ဗျာကြားစိတ်နဲ့နာနဲ့အတန်နဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါမှာကြားစိတ်ပေါ်လာတယ်ဗျာသုံးပါးစုံတဲ့ခါတော့ကျတော့ဖတ်တာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပါဗျာနှာခေါင်းနဲ့အနံ့နဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါကျတော့နာစိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာသုံးပါးစုံတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပါရှာနဲ့အရသာနဲ့တွေ့ထိတဲ့အခါမှာစားစိတ်ပေါ်ပါဗျာသုံးပါးစုံတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဖတ်တာပါဗျာဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပစ္စယတဏှာပါဗျာကိုယ်နဲ့တွေ့ထိစရာနဲ့တွေ့တဲ့အခါမှာရဟနာကောင်းစိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာသုံးပါးစုံတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဖတ်တာလို့ခေါ်ပါဗျာဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပစ္စယတဏှာပါဗျာစိတ်နဲ့ကြံတွေးစရာနဲ့တွေ့ထိတဲ့အခါမှာတွေ့တော့ကြံစီစိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာသုံးပါးစုံတဲ့ခါသုံးပါးစုံတာကိုဖတ်တာလို့ခေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာဖတ်တာပစ္စယဝေဒနာပါဗျာအဲ့မျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါမှာကြားစိတ်ပေါ်တယ်ကြားစိတ်နဲ့ဖတ်ကြားစိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာကြားစိတ်ပေါ်တော့ဖတ်တာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဖတ်တာဖြစ်တာကိုမျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တဲ့ခါမှာမြင်စိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ခါဗျာမြင်စိတ်ကလေးကိုတရားမရှုမှတ်တဲ့အခါမှာဝေဒနာပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာဝေဒနာပစ္စယတဏှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာတဏှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာအဲ့မှာအဲ့မျက်စိမှာလည်း6မျိုးဖြစ်ပါဗျာမျက်စိမှာလည်း6မျိုးပြန်နားမှာလည်း6မျိုးပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာ နှာခေါင်းမှာလည်း6မျိုးပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာရှာမှာလည်း6မျိုးပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာကိုယ်မှာလည်း6မျိုးပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာစိတ်မှာလည်း6မျိုးပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာအဲ့ဒါတွေကိုတရားမရှုမှတ်လို့ရှိရင်မျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တဲ့မြင်စိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာဖတ်တာမျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းနဲ့တိုက်တာမြင်စိတ်ပေါ်ပါတယ်ဗျာဖတ်30 ဆိုတဲ့အခါဖတ်တာပြည့်စရာဝေဒနာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာအဲ့ဒီဝေဒနာလေးကိုတရားမရှုတဲ့အခါကျရင်တဏှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်တဏှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ခါဗျာတဏှာဖြစ်သွားတဲ့အခါကျတဏှာပြည့်စရာဥပါဒနာပြည့်စရာကာမဥပါဒနာပြည့်စရာကာမဘဝကာမပြည့်စရာကာမဘဝပြည့်စရာဇာတိပြည့်စရာစရာမရဏတောကပရိဒေဝဒုက္ခဒေါမနတဥပယတဆိုပြီးတော့တန်တရားလဲရပါတယ်ဗျာအဲ့ဒါကဝေဒနာနဲ့တဏှာကြားမှာတရားမရှုတဲ့အခါကျတော့တန်တရားပရိစ္ဆသမုပ္ပါတန်တရားလဲရပါတယ်ဗျာတရားရှုမှတ်လိုက်မယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်မျက်စိနဲ့အစင်းတိုက်တဲ့အခါမှာမြင်စိတ်ပေါ်တာကိုတရားရှုမှတ်လိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့ဖြစ်ပျက်ကဒုက္ခသစ္စာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာမြင်တဲ့ဉာဏ်လေးကမက္ခသစ္စာပါဗျာနောက်ခန္ဓာမလာတာကသုံးတရားသစ္စာဖြစ်ပျက်ကဒုက္ခသေတာကသုံးတရားသစ္စာပါဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဗျာနောက်ခန္ဓာမလာတာကនិရောဓသစ္စာဖြစ်တဲ့အခါကျတော့အဲ့မှာဒုက္ခချုပ်ငြိမ်းတဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုပြမောက်ပြုနိုင်ပါတယ်ဗျာတရားရှုမှတ်ရင်ပါဗျာ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့
အဲ့လောက်ပဲသိပါဗျာ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့တရားရှုမှတ်ရင်ကိုပေါ်လာတဲ့စိတ်
နိဗ္ဗာန်ကိုပြုရမယ်ဗျာမြင်စိတ်လို့ဆိုပြီးတော့ရှုမှတ်ရမှာပါဗျာ
မြင်စိတ်ကလေးမှတ်ရင်
ရှုမှတ်စိတ်မရှုသက်သွားနိုင်ပါဗျာမရှုမှတ်နိုင်လို့ရှိရင်ကိုယ်မလည်းမရှိတန်တရားလဲရအောင်ပါဗျာ
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဟုတ်ကဲ့ရပါပြီလောက်ဆိုနော်အဲ့တော့စောစောကဘုန်းကြီးလေးပြောသွားတယ်ဟိုကသမထနဲ့ဥပဒနာလေးအဲ့ဒါလေးဘုန်းကြီးမှတ်ထားပါဦးဘုန်းကြီးဘွယ်လေးတွေကိုမေ့ပြီဘုန်းကြီးစောစောဓမ္မဥဆုံးပြောတဲ့ဘုန်းကြီးလေးဘုန်းကြီးဘွယ်ပြောပါဦးဘုန်းကြီးဟိုပိတ်ထားတယ်အတန်ပိတ်ထားတယ်အတန်လေးပွင့်ပါ
နာရတာပါဗျာ
ဟောဘုန်းကြီးနာရတာဘုန်းကြီးနာရတာစောစောအဲ့သမထနဲ့ဥပဒနာလေးအဲ့ဒါစိတ်ဝင်စားစရာကောင်းတယ်နော်စောစောဦးစင်းပြောသွားတာလေသမထတရားအထုတ်တဲ့တမာတိထူထောင်တဲ့ယောဂီတွေအတွက်ကြတော့ဒီတန်ကဉာဏ်ကြီးဖြစ်နေတယ်နော်အတန်နေကြားရင်ရိုးတော့နှောက်ယှက်နေဖြစ်နေတာတမာတိထူထောင်တဲ့ယောဂီတွေအတွက်ပေါ့အတန်ကဉာဏ်ကြီးဖြစ်နေတာဝိပဿနာတရားအလုပ်အားထုတ်တဲ့လူတွေကြတော့သူကအတန်ကြားတာနဲ့အတန်ကိုကြားရင်အတန်ကိုမှတ်ချင်မှတ်မယ်ကြားစိတ်ကိုမှတ်ရင်မှတ်မယ်ကြားရင်ကြားစိတ်ကိုကောက်မှတ်လိုက်တော့ကြားစိတ်မှတ်ရင်လည်းနိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်သွားတယ်ဝိပဿနာသမားအတွက်တော့ဒီအတန်နေကြားတဲ့ကြားစိတ်တွေအတန်တွေကတော့ဒီအတန်တွေဝိပဿနာသမားအတွက်ကြတော့မိတ်ဆွေသမထသမားအတွက်တော့ယန္တုဖြစ်နေတာဝိပဿနာသမားကကြားစိတ်ပေါ်ရင်ကြားစိတ်တတ်မှတ်တယ်နာမ်စိတ်ပေါ်ရင်နာမ်စိတ်တတ်မှတ်တယ်ဒီလိုမျိုးဝိပဿနာလေ့ကျင့်ကောင်းလာရင်သူကပေါ်တဲ့အာယုံကိုမှတ်နိုင်တဲ့အခါကျတော့အဲ့ဒီအတန်တွေကိုမှတ်ရင်းနဲ့နိဗ္ဗာန်ရောက်သွားနိုင်တရားရသွားနိုင်တယ်တမာတိထူထောင်တဲ့ထူထောင်ရာဇယောဂီအတွက်ကြတော့အတန်စုညံတာအနှောင့်အယှက်ကြီးဖြစ်တယ်အနှောင့်အယှက်ကြီးဖြစ်နေတယ်အဲ့ဒီအတန်ကိုမှတ်တတ်ရင်တရားရမယ်အတန်ကိုမမှတ်တတ်ရင်မတရားရမယ်အဲ့လိုထားအတန်ကိုမှတ်နိုင်ရင်တရားရမယ်အတန်ကိုမမှတ်နိုင်ရင်မတရားရမယ်အတန်ကိုပဲမှတ်မှအမှန်ကိုရင်ကြားစိတ်ကိုမှတ်မယ်ဆိုရင်လည်းကြားစိတ်ကိုမှတ်လို့ရတယ်ကြားစိတ်ကိုမှတ်နိုင်ရင်တရားရမယ်မမှတ်နိုင်ရင်မတရားဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်ငါတရားအထုတ်နေတာကွာအနှောက်အယှက်တွေဖြစ်ရလေခြင်းဆိုပြီးတော့မကြည်မနှက်ဒေါသတွေဖြစ်ရင်မတရားဝင်တာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ဒီလိုလေးတွေအဲ့ဒါလေးတွေလည်းပဲအရင်ကပြောပြသွားတာလေးတွေဒါမှတ်သားစရာလေးတွေပေါ့နော်ဒါတတိထားရမယ့်ချက်လေးတွေပေါ့နော်အတိုင်းကသမာဓိဓမ္မအတွက်တော့ဉာဏ်လူပဲဒါပေမဲ့ဝိပဿနာဓမ္မအတွက်တော့မိတ်ဆွေဖြစ်သွားနိုင်တယ်
မိတ်ဆွေ
ဖြစ်သွားနိုင်အဲ့ဒီတိုင်းကလေးကိုမှတ်ရင်တရားရသွားနိုင်တယ်ပေါ့နော် ဒီလောက်ဆိုရင်ချိန်လည်းပြည့်သွားပြီနော်
ဟုတ်ပါ
ကဲအဲ့တော့အားလုံးချိန်လည်းပြည့်သွားပြီဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဟုတ်အားလုံးဆရာတော်တွေတန်ခါတော်ရှင်လူမြတ်တွေကိုယောဂီတို့ဆင်းတွေကိုတရားနာပရိသတ်တွေအားလုံးကိုယ်လည်းချမ်းသာကြပါစေစိတ်လည်းချမ်းသာကြပါစေအန္တရာယ်တွေကင်းရန်ဆွေတွေရှင်း၍ကောင်းကျိုးတွေဒုဉ္ဆန္ဒတွေတလုံးတော်ဝပြည့်စုံနိုင်ကြသည့်ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်သူပုဂ္ဂိုလ်မြတ်များဖြစ်ကြပါစေလို့ဆန္ဒပြုရင်အပမဒိနာမမိမလျောမဘောမတန်ထက်တန်သောအပမာရတတိတရားဖြင့်တမ္ပါဒိဋ္ဌကိုစီကိုငါပြည့်စုံနိုင်ကြပါစေကုန်တတိ
သာဓုသာဓုသာဓု
God